Civil servant is a professional who works for the government at the local or federal level. Having second job or double employment is when they did another job differ from main duties as civil servant. Although there are no clear regulation in Malaysia that prohibit civil servant from having two jobs at the same time, differ from United States employment law, is allow any employee to work in more than one job without any restriction. However, the law states strictly that if there is any conflict arise in performing their main duties, double employment will be prohibited. In the year of 2015, employees were encouraged for having more jobs other than the main job in order to cope with the living expenses. Ahmad Maslan briefly stated that having two jobs is not wrong. Besides, most countries allow their citizens to work in two jobs. Dato' Ahmad Maslan supports civil servants to do more jobs as example, conduct an online business as long as their commitment is still on priority. In response to this, MTUC, Malaysian Trade Union Congress Secretary General Gopal Hisham urged the government to withdraw such recommendation related to having two jobs in the same time, whether it is for neither public sector nor private sector. It is to ensure that the productivity of the organisation is secured.
The cause of the second employment issue is Suzana Murni, who is a civil servant, is considered guilty because she did not inform her second job to her supervisor and head of department. Pursuant to Section 5, Clause 1 of the Public Officers Conduct and Discipline Regulation 1993, an officer who is not expressly authorized by his head of department shall not participate directly or indirectly in the management, operation, or obtain wages for any work from any institution or private individual. But there are exceptions. According to the president of QPEX, Dato' Adnan Mat commented that he support a second job if civil servant make a written application and permission to the head of department. Furthermore, the Office of the Federal Territory Mufti and Surah Al-Anfal, verse 27 from Al-Quran, conclude that the civil servant has to do the second job at a time other than during the official duty time to ensure they can perform the main job with responsibility, trust, diligence, as well as performance and quality.
Implication of having a second job while having a primary job is stress from context switching. The employee need to divide their time to balance on their two jobs that can make the quality of the employee main job not keeping up with the requirement made by the organisation. Employee will tend to get confused, might accidentally give wrong information. This shows employee attitude and professionalism on their primary job as they do not take their primary job seriously, then can make them take reckless decision. This kind of decision can happen due to the stress from balancing both jobs. Next, another implication is conflict of interest. Employee ability to fulfill their primary job will get disturbed as their second job might be in the same field with their primary job. Employee service on primary job might decline as well as employee tend to focus on their second job. This is because they might use or leak confidential information from their primary job on their second job that can cause conflict to arise between these two jobs. From here, the employee action consider betrayal towards their primary job policies as the employee being unprofessional and just want to get more benefit from the job only.
Furthermore, your first job could be your real passion rather than your first job. While most people take a secondary job for financial reasons, you may simply want to do something you enjoy. This condition, however, could have such an impact on your first job performance. This will cause you to concentrate more on something you enjoy doing, to the point where you will forget it is not your primary work. You could get yourself into problems because if your employer observes a drop in your performance, you are more likely to lose your primary employment. Last but not least, there will be a rise in monthly bills to pay. First, if your secondary job is to become a Grab driver, you will certainly need to spend more money on automobile service and other additional costs such as fuel. Your expenses could also be affected by the time you have spent on your secondary job. For instance, by the time you reach home, you will have less time to prepare dinner. Thus, you will tend to spend your money on buying food at the restaurant. Ironically, there are still a lot of individuals who take this issue for granted, while it is so obvious that the issue has forced them to waste their money instead.
Recommendation. Firstly, employee must inform their employer about the second job that they do. There is a specific policy pertaining the second job, which is called the Second Jobs and Volunteering Policy. This policy is to provide clear guidelines before taking on second jobs. This policy is issued on July 2021. Secondly, sign an agreement stating that anything from the primary job will stay confidential. There are few things that employer need to take into account, such as whether the employee's second job create any conflicts or other things. These things is important so that they can avoid future issues. Thirdly, employee responsibility is to balance between their first and second job. It is an employee responsibility
to ensure that their second job do not interfere with their ability to accomplish work-related tasks. Lastly, managing money wisely. To avoid wasting money, employees who work 2 jobs need to create and utilize a budget plan so that their money are being used wisely.